Well, hello, my friends, racial change family. My name is Tomlin Nyback. This is 365 Days Towards Racial Change. I'm wondering what we're going to do next year, what I'm going to do with this project. I know I'm going to tone it down. I'm not going to be able to sustain it once I reach my 365. But that's okay. I've been thinking about recycling some of maybe my best episodes and stuff, and it's starting to look like I'm not going to get to all the material. I wanted to uh, get to all of Uncle Tom's Cabin. That'll happen, but Dr. Anderson's work, uh, hopefully we've taken enough bite out of it to get the idea of the message for Black folks in America. Uh, as always, I like to talk about the mind. What are Black people thinking, white people thinking first for Black folks? As we move forward today, more mass shootings, stuff going on that's really taking up a lot of, I think, important attention from any group that has a beef with America. Uh, the Black issues with America are pretty challenging and need a lot of attention, but you notice, we just can't keep rocking the boat long enough for things to settle so we can forward our argument. So it's a lot of guesswork, a lot of challenges going on for any message for anybody, I'm sure. Get their message across. I get different feeds and I stay apprised of different groups. LGBTQ always seems to find a way to really get their voice heard and to be out there no matter what the climate. And it's their organization, their determination, a lot of devotion there. That's how it's done. You can't really knock any group that's going to be competitive, diligent, and all this stuff for succeeding. That's right. That's just the way America is. Not always fair, but that's the group gets a fighting chance, makes a fighting argument for access to the wealth, privileges, rights in this nation, as they're able to be assertive and diligent in what they're doing. The Black mind needs a lot of help. There's a lot of conditioning and stuff. We're getting back into story time, and we're going to talk, the next day or two, about the conditioning, Harriet Beecher Stowe's narrative, and how Black people are just reserved, put back, easily distracted with the world's activity to the point of not being effective in getting the desires as a group manifested in the land. The Black mind. White folks, right? It's a spectrum. I didn't create it. I wish it wasn't there, but that's the reality. It's white and black. And white folks do have a way of going about things, living in this nation. The nation, the way it's structured and all that, it supports white life. I've said it many times. You'll hear it again, and year later. America is created by, created for, administered by white folks. So that's, that it's not, shouldn't be surprising that that group does so well. Had black people configured America, you'd have a whole different thing. If Jewish people had been in control, you'd have the whole different thing. This monotheistic, thing on the earth. Right? If Germany had won, whoever wins gets to call the plays, and their group gets to benefit from winning. That's how it is. We're back in the football season. The winning team, their players get on the front of magazines and get interviewed, and their styles are studied as being the standard for excellence. Same with tennis. I like tennis a lot too. So I like ice skating too. Those people who win draw the standard, or the model, and everybody follows suit. And as much as we can be on board with that, it's going to determine our access to similar benefits. Right? It's just the natural way of things. So white folks have won, so to speak, and so they reap those benefits. I would say, it would have been better, I think, all the way around if white folks had not made certain commitments and hadn't been too hasty in talking about this freedom for all and one nation under God and all that rhetoric, because it doesn't come out in the normal common experience of all Americans. We find we've got this standard, we've got documentation and stuff like that, stuff that our politicians will swear to. But when it comes to that practical application, things break down. Right? I don't think I'm talking. I think I'm talking factually, historically, not as much negatively. That's the way. That's what happened. As we make amendments, and we have documents, initiatives, and all this stuff to counteract some of the hypocrisy of what powerful white America told us. Yeah. Financial literacy, never forget it. I don't want that to be too far from our minds. Work your money so your money will work for you. Make money that slave. The slavery thing is exactly that. It's about resources, generating wealth while you sit back and do what you love. That's kind of the man's goal, what man does with himself, where he gravitates toward. The internet is good in a way, but it's really bad because so much is automated, and I hate accessing automated stuff where I feel like somebody's just created a program and I'm to interact with it. Excuse me. While they sit around. I don't like knowing that they're just sitting around being lazy as I go out and work for my money still. And work their machine and stuff. It's all automated. And, oh, boy. But I want to do the same thing. No lie. That's how it works. It's always been like that, whether it's been slavery 400 or 500 years ago, to robotics now. However it happens, automated money making with least effort is what I want. It's funny. I made this big stink about this equipment at work, and so I let it be known. I said, hey, that's a skilled position. I should be getting paid more than the common laborer on the floor. You're paying me the same for this labor that not everybody can do. If anybody can do it, then you can send the women out there to do it. Send any guy from any position. Go do it if it's that easy. And like human resources tell me, well, it's easy. Well, that's a violation of something that Adam Smith said way back in the 1700s. You can look him up, Scottish kind of historian, philosopher. And he says in there, in some of his documentation, that the business owner makes more than the trash collector because there's an element of education and investment to bring that individual to that space. You could take anybody, show them how to dump a can into the back of a trash truck. Not a problem. But running a business, it appears looks like less effort, but there's more education, there's more investment going in there. The brain surgeon makes 6 figures a year easily over a guy like me that's just moving a box from here, read a number, put it over there. There's 3 steps. The brain surgeon has multiple, and that's the thing. So I couldn't believe this human resources person came out of her mouth and said that I get paid the same because driving this equipment is easier than working on the floor. She obviously is not educated in that response. I didn't push her on it because I know I'm right about this pay thing, and I'm finally have the courage to reach out on that. That's my financial literacy kicking in. Very important. Gotta fight for yourself. Let's move on. I want to get to story time. I'm inspired to do this work by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. Please read his works. If you read only one book, get this one, A Black History Reader. 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask, Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice, and Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, Powernomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com. Behind me you see the hashtag #us2 symbol. You'll find black people congregating and finding their voice there. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, or kind of Black Facebook experience. If you can't find your flavor on the World Wide Web, do what I did. Start your own and see what happens. Let's see. Also, story time. We are in story time. We had this extended time out of Black History Reader. I hope that information was beneficial. We'll get back to some serious historical and factual stuff, but we definitely don't want to move away from this, and we want to finish. We want to get through this before the end of the year. We've got a little ways to go. We'll get into some short chapters here for the next couple days or so. Let's let our hair down and get into this and have some conversation around Uncle Tom. Let's pick up where we left off. Little Eva, St. Clare have died. and stuff. And we went through this long section where we started to appreciate some of the challenging arguments, philosophical arguments about keeping people captive, about the color line, about the slave's relationship with God, value of family, devotion to master, the master's conflicts with holding people captive and hostage, tearing families apart callously. We talked about a lot of this hypocrisy of northern white people and the overt practice of slavery by southern people. But we understand that North and South had a very similar. They're very similar in their attitude toward black people. They just practice it in a different way. Well, now Eva and St. Clare died. They were the two. Well, Ophelia is still alive, but Ophelia, St. Clare, Eva, these three white people, were people you could trust to work, advocate, be champions, protectors of black people to a degree, wherever they were at in the spectrum of the relationship with black people. Well, now St. Clare and Eva are gone. Ophelia has essentially saved one black person, Topsy, and has made a commitment to Topsy to be a champion for her. The other slaves are now in a precarious position, right? And it's a wonder, life. In Eva's death, St. Clare's death, we say, okay, if we have any Protestant Christian leanings, we start to say, ponder, contemplate why the wicked prosper and the good people are cut off, go to early graves and stuff like that. So these questions come up in what's going on the St. Clare plantation. Now all the slaves are in the hands of crazy-ass Marie. And Marie is old school, slave owner, those are property. We'll find out in a minute here that keeping the slaves as property is a service. She's doing service to them by holding on to them. So Marie's got the whole house uproar. She's agitated, which is a mystery because what we know about Marie is that she goes into illness mode on steroids when someone around her is ill. But now that everybody's well, but she still finds reason to keep everybody all messed up and in an uproar. In all fairness, Marie is mentally ill in her mind. Tom is comforted by Jesus. He's sitting back, he's still remembering St. Clare's words about being free, liberated, back with family. So in all the tragedy, he's like, I'm still coming out all right. And all these challenges that are happening. On the other hand, the slaves that have been there longer and have seen this dynamic on the plantation don't feel good about their future. And their concern is quickly affirmed. One of the first signs that things are not going to be as easy as before is when young slave, attractive, mulatto, maybe quadroon slave girl, she's a little uppity with Marie, and that's a big mistake. And Marie, they have this system in the South where, an errant slave can receive a script, like a like a prescription, and that they're ordered to go to the whipping house to be whipped by men. This is attractive, light-skinned, beautiful woman, and these men that perform the task, are just brutal mentally. These women are stripped naked, they're exposed, and Rosa is in horror over this. So she pleads with Ophelia, help me out here. And Ophelia says, yeah, okay, I'll do my best. So Ophelia runs headlong into Marie's callousness and apathy for the slaves on the plantation, slaves in general. Ophelia comes back unsuccessful in interceding for Rosa. Rosa has to go endure the shame and the abuse. Adolf, if you remember, he was very close to St. Clare, and Adolf had a habit of wearing St. Clare's clothes and all this stuff. Very privileged house slave. But he feels the danger. He's even overheard Marie talking to a lawyer about liquidating the whole estate. That's slave, equipment, animals, land. She doesn't care. She's going to do that, get a chunk of money, and go back to her father's plantation where she could be sick and helpless there and spoiled. She's set for the rest of her life. Her daddy's going to take care of her. She's got money. She probably won't even have to spend it. Doesn't even have to touch, just be with daddy, back with daddy now. So she's always had sugar daddies in her life. Tom still feels good. He's thinking about going home. He remembers his master's last will and testament verbally. He didn't write it down. That's a big bad sign. If somebody makes some agreements with you, get it in writing. That's the way of things. Don't be hesitant or afraid, unless they're really close to you or something like that. You get it in writing. Affirm yourself, honor yourself in some of these complicated business matters and stuff like that. Never leave it to fate and trust and stuff. That as we have contracts, let's be safe. There's contracts, organizations to handle escrow, to make everybody feel safe, sleep well at night. It might cost you a little bit of money to put some of that together. Tom finally says, Miss Ophelia, St. Clare, and actually Eva were desirous that me. Now Eva was desirous of all the slaves, but St. Clare made a specific commitment to Tom. Ophelia knows about this, and so Ophelia says, yeah, Tom, you're right. And Ophelia's like, she couldn't do much for Rosa, but as far as Tom goes, she felt something about that because she saw how Tom behaved at the death of Eva and St. Clare, Tom's piousness, and there's an intimacy there between Ophelia and Tom, so she argues a little more rigorously with Marie for Tom's release, and Marie's like, nah, forget about it. Very sad, and Ophelia, she doesn't want to let this one go, so she presses in to Marie a little bit harder. Oh, but Marie, suddenly she's having fainting attacks, and she's complaining that nobody's caring about her, nobody's acknowledging her pain, and she needs smelling salts, and she has a fan, and all the stuff you expect. It's just a dodge not to deal with the apparent problem. She doesn't care what Eva and St. Clare's wishes were, because Tom actually is more valuable. He's the most valuable possession she's got. There's no way she's going to let him go without some profit. The best Ophelia can do is write to the Shelby plantation. She does remember that. Tell them the situation and what are some of the things that need to happen to facilitate this this problem with Tom. Of course, it's snail mail. Things are happening very quickly on the St. Clare plantation, and so this letter is going to go off, but some things will have transpired by the time it even reaches the Shelby plantation. The chapter ends. The chapter is called Unprotected, for those very reasons we talked about. But the chapter ends with short paragraphs. It talks about the slaves being carted off to the slave warehouse for auction. Yeah, that's why I get kind of irritated. I get irritated with myself sometimes for not having more courage, not speaking up more, for not doing my part to secure my wants and needs. And it's not easy. I wasn't trained to how to do that. I'm just learning. I don't know, it's gray hair all over the place. And I'm just learning how to do that. Does it come off well? I have no experience with it, so it doesn't come off well. And I'm always challenged in bringing about some positive results in getting my needs met. Sad too. I hope before I leave this life that I do it better, do it well, get what I'm after, without having to be in tantrum and rage all the time. Gotta start somewhere, I guess. I say this because this relates. The slave was absolutely helpless. The white system, overtly enjoyed its privilege over black folks, and I'd be one scarred up black man if I had lived back then and acted some of the ways I have today. But the whips, confinement, lack of resources, lack of opportunities from then still creep up today. White people just cannot interact. They can be apathetic to my desire for positive change, for my desire for better wages, moving up the ladder, and all this stuff. I have no. I'm not physically whipped anymore, but there are plenty of ways that I can be encouraged to conform and comply. Let's put it that way. And so those are some of the insidious, those those subtle ways that I encounter resistance and white control in the system. At least in Tom's day, it was in your face. You knew it. It was right there, overt, very covert. Nowadays, hard to expose. I could see it obviously, but it's not. It doesn't expose easily because we don't have big screens on our heads to tell what's exactly going on up there. And listen, let's get back to this. We want to stay with Tom's plight. He's going through a new thing, and I think we need to keep the story together for what some of the changes he's going to go through with the next couple days. Tom was not back. I don't want to hold you hostage. We'll get back to this tomorrow, but stay tuned and let's see how Tom's looks like he's going through another phase in as a slave. That's day 251 out of the way. The 365 days towards racial change. Tom was not back. Bye bye.